All right, Jason, on today's show, we are interviewing a man by the name of Khaazra Maaranu.
I know Khaazra.
You've met Khaazra at the conference?
He's a great guy.
We're talking about the power of positive thinking. You see, this guy has built a company that now processes over $1 billion of credit card fees per year.
That's
over
impressive.
$1 billion of credit card fees a year. Jason, were you aware that Khaazra was adopted by his grandfather?
I did not know that.
Were you aware that he was raised amidst drug use? He was raised by in an environment where prostitution was normal?
Looking at the guy, I would have never guessed.
Would you have known that many people who are close to him were strung out on drugs at all times?
Not in the slightest.
This guy went from the bottom to the top. He's an inspiration to everybody, and I encourage you to grab a pen and a pad and to take notes as we listen to this interview with Khaazra Maaranu about the power of positive thinking on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. And a quick note for all the folks listening. In the background, you're going to hear a lot of noise because this interview took place at the same place and time when we were also hosting a massive rally. There was a mayoral watch party. We hosted a watch party for a man who wanted to become the next mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we were interviewing Khaazra while we were also hosting a watch party. So I apologize for any audio hoo-ha in the background, or maybe it just adds some flavor to today's interview with Khaazra Maaranu.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes! Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing the man, the myth, and the legend, Khaazra. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Pretty good indeed.
Hey, I want to talk to you today about, if I can, the power of positivity. And before I do that, I want to kind of start off at the bottom. What when you started your company, how old were you?
Oh, good question. So old now. Maybe 33, 34, something like that.
33,
35.
35. And what's the name of your company?
Electronic commerce.
And how do we spell your first and last name? Because somebody out there is going to try to Google you right now, and they're going crazy because they can't figure out how to spell your name.
Nobody can. K like kitchen, H like hello, A like apple, A like apple, Z like zebra, R like reed, and A like apple, and then Maaranu, got all the A's in there. It's M like Mary, A-A-R-A-N-U.
And your company now processes over $1 billion a year of credit card payments. But tell us, where did you start? What was life like growing up for you, sir?
Detroit, Michigan. Actually, there's a little city called Inkster, Michigan, which is right outside of Detroit. A lot worse than Detroit. Grew up, actually, initially, I can remember my grandfather who adopted me. They had a house in Inkster. And we moved to Detroit, Michigan, right, where he saw this commercial building that was a karate school.
Really?
On the bottom. And, yes, a karate school on the bottom and an office upstairs. He bought the building and made the bottom a church, like a storefront church, and we lived upstairs. Like, I literally grew up, and they called me church boy in the neighborhood. And it was kind of interesting because, you know, even though we had the church, my front yard was like a major street. And, I mean, it's sad to say, I guess, but all I can remember is so much happening. Like, you know, prostitutes, drug dealers, fights, winos. Well, I guess I shouldn't say winos. Alcoholics, or just tons of people who are on substance abuse, right?
You can call them winos. That's okay. I want to ask you this because I've never – I want to get into the details because we're talking about the power of positive thinking. So we need to go back to the bottom. We need to go into the trash, into the dumpster, into the funk, into the nastiness, into the ghetto, whatever you want to call it, into the poverty. What's it like when you're 7 years old and there's prostitutes right there on the street in front of you? What's that like?
Man, That's rough, man, because unfortunately, Clay, my grandfather's daughters, which was my mom, my auntie, they were the prostitutes as well.
Oh,
So,
no.
Yeah, man, it was crazy because they got hooked on substance abuse. And, you know, it's weird because I became, as innocent as I was, I became a product of that environment because I recall that's just crazy because it's like I don't know how you get, I do now, but I couldn't see at that time, at that age, how to get out of it. You know, my mom would say, my auntie would say, hey, they would give me money, or not give me money, they would say, go to this house and get this, right? And it would be drugs, right? It would be marijuana, it would be something else. I didn't freaking know what it was, but they turned into heroin addicts too. And I would be the guy to go and get it, you know?
You had to go get it.
So I had to go get it, bring it back to him. And
How old were you?
you know, I maybe by that time, at least 11, 12, maybe.
When you're 11 and 12
Yeah,
years
like
old,
11.
was there any shame in the game about prostitution at all? I mean, was there any stigma to it, any negativity? Was it looked at as okay? I mean, I didn't grow up in that kind of environment. What was that like?
I think people just looked at him as like, you know, fiends, to be honest with you, because, you know, we're not talking about the classy, you know, if you can use that word, you know, the high end or whatever prostitute. You're talking about crackheads. So they are looked at as like the zombies of the earth. You know, they could be 140 pounds one day, in 2 weeks they're like 80 pounds, and, you know, they're walking around, they're dirty, they're scratching, you know, they'll do anything for money. When I say anything, I literally mean that, anything. I have not seen something that they won't do for a hit, right? So it's definitely not something that's admirable. It's actually, it's almost like you feel helpless because at that age, you know, unless you're like this really tough child, which I wasn't, I don't know, you don't know what to do. You know, like, you really don't know what to do. You can't tell your mom not to do something, right? Even though you don't want her doing that. And, you know, you don't want any of your friends seeing your mom like that. You know, of course, her parents don't want to see her like that. And I just kind of wonder, like, you know, as I got older, like, man, she has brothers. Like, could they do something? Could they help? But a lot of them got strung out, too. So it was, you know, and a couple of times, and when I really realized it was really bad play is, you know, like I said, we had the church downstairs and we had our living quarters upstairs. And my grandparents used to put locks on their doors because, you know, they knew that, you know, some of the children were hooked on substance and they would possibly break in their rooms or whatever. So one day my grandmother sent me upstairs while church was going on to go in the room and get something. When I went in the room, this is crazy. When I went in the room, I saw and I've never shared this with anybody, but I'm going to go on sharing now. So, because you asked me. So when I walked into the room, my mom was on the floor and she had busted my piggy bank open. Piggy banks had pennies in it, and dimes and nickels and quarters. There's no like crazy, you know, no hundreds in there, or 50s or 20s. And she was on the floor scooping them up. And the crazy thing is how she got in there. She had to climb a 2-story building like Spider-Man or something. I don't know how the hell she got in there. And we had bars on the window. She got through the bars some kind of way, lifted up the window, got in there, and busted the bank open with, I don't know what she used, and was basically gathering the pennies and coins together to put in her pocket. That's how strong addiction is. And all I could do is stand there like damn.
And that's your mom?
That's my mom.
Is she still living?
No, man. Unfortunately, she's not. No. She checked out when I was about 16. The cause of death was AIDS/AZT. In my opinion, I put the AZT on there, but AIDS.
So your mom, she passed away when you were how old?
I think 16 or 15. It was like a blur, man. It was so crazy. But like 15 or 16 years old.
So now you have a path. You have a path. You can choose. You have a kind of path A, path B. You got two paths. You got a fork in the road. we all have a fork in the road today. Everybody does. And what I want to focus on is the power of positive thinking, and specifically how you got out of that situation, because now you have a company that processes $1 billion of credit card processing per year. $1 billion. Now, that's not all profit, obviously. It's a credit card processing company.
Right.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you team up with entrepreneurs. They say, look, I need to charge my credit cards, and I'm going to compare rates with you, and you believe you offer a more secure, more affordable, potentially more secure, potentially a credit card processing solution, right? So people go to Khaazra, KHAAZRA.com, KHAAZRA.com. If they go there, they can compare rates. How do you go from where you were to where you are now? I mean, what's the first step? How did you get out of how did you break the poverty mindset?
It wasn't an overnight. It was not overnight. I still work on it every single day, and that's what I really, 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 really loved about your office so much, because there was so much positivity. And I ordered all your books. I don't know if you know that. I ordered all your books.
Oh, you did.
I started to go through some of them. I'm like, man, I'm just sucking it up. I said, I'm going to keep this book right here. So every night I'm going to open it and look at it. I'm going to read one of these super positive quotes that are, that grow on me, because the negativity grows on you. You don't even realize. I'm going to get to your question.
Yeah, no,
you don't really realize how the negative environment grows on you. If you're around it enough, eventually you will become a product of that environment, right? And so I wasn't able to break out of it right away, but what my grandparents did is they sent me away, because Detroit was so violent, so wild, and my cousins were getting in trouble. They were going to jail. Just crazy things were happening. And so they sent me to New Jersey to be with my uncle. And I went to college. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and I still had some of that knuckleheadism in me.
Yeah.
Where I was just used to attracting, the wrong elements. I was attracted to the wrong elements.
Yep.
And it wasn't until, and I'm fast forwarding now, it really wasn't until there's a guy who was outside talking. And I heard him talking to my next door neighbor who was a semi-Rasta, right? And, heavy weed smoker. I'm not knocking people who smoke weed, but he's a heavy weed smoker.
Heavy weed
to the
smoker.
point where I think it got him a little bit, made him a little bit lethargic. But this other guy was saying things I had never heard before. It's just like really strong and really hard. And, it was things that I probably should have heard when I was a child or when I was a young man. I just hadn't heard it. And then that led me into opening my mind up to receive other things, because if someone had came to me and told me something, unless it was in a rap song or some kind of music, even if you sat me down, it went in one ear and out the other. I wouldn't have been able to understand it.
Are you saying that the Rasta guy began to change your thinking? The Rasta guy?
Well, not just him. It was the guy who was talking to him. The Rasta started, he was saying a few things, that Bob Marley would say, but, they'll always light up a spliff or whatever, and that's when they get deep on you. So that it helped a tiny bit, but it was the guy who was talking to him who helped put me in another direction. And I started to hang around that guy. Right. But that led me to something else as well. I mean, there was a guy named Dr. Amos Wilson and Dr. John Henry Clark, all these people who were like historians. I'm like, I had never heard this stuff before, right? And then I fast forward, and a cousin told me, he says, listen, I won't even talk to a person as a friend unless they read books by this guy named Jim Rohn. I had never heard of Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn, yeah.
And Jim Rohn, man. And he is also one of the people who I would almost put on repeat play. And I began to consistently listen to him again and again. And then I would go into these different environments where all these kinds of people were. And that is what helped. But it took time, though. It wasn't like, I read a book one day and then boom, I'm just changed all of a sudden. It was something that had to grow on me, just like all the negativity had. Had grown on me.
Right now, I'm doing Ephesians on repeat, from that controversial book called the Bible. I'm listening to that on repeat. Right. And I'm telling you, you listen to Ephesians enough. Let me tell you how Ephesians goes the first time I heard it. The first time I'm going, I think I'm a bad husband. No. I know I'm a bad. Oh, no. Because we all kind of, we rate ourselves a B when we're a D. You know, like, are you a good husband? Oh yeah,
Right.
baby, I'm good. I'm a good B. And you go, no, I'm a D based on what I have the ability to be. You know, but the first time you listen to Ephesians, you start to say, oh man, I could do better. Second time you listen, you're like, man, I could really do better. Almost overwhelming. Third time through the game,
Right.
you start to say, here's what I can do about it. But the first time, it's almost too much. And I encourage everybody to read Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, a best-selling author. Jim, R-O-H-N. The notable quotable is, you don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. Jim Rohn, great author. Khaazra, what's another author or two that you have stumbled upon to help our listeners out there?
Oh my God! So, well, there's one that's on the phone now, Clay Clark. You know,
Nice.
Your book, Boom, man, is awesome. I must say, it's a really, really good book. Also, Ray Dalio, he has a book that's based
Ray
upon principles, because that's really where I am, like the principles. I would say Simon Sinek is another good guy who talks about why, because a lot of times we get into things just for the money. Sometimes we become partners in business and maybe your partner's all about money, and maybe you want money too, but maybe you want ethics, like the guy from Hobby Lobby. You know, I could go on and on about authors, but those are just some of the authors right there. You have Robert Greene, you know, who wrote a pretty good book to help you kind of understand those things.
Do you like the new Hobby Lobby book? Are you listening to the book or reading the book from David Greene, the founder of Hobby Lobby?
Absolutely.
How's that book? What book are you reading?
Give It All Away.
Give It All Away. The guy who started Hobby Lobby. How's that book going for you?
Oh, it's really good. I mean, he really stands behind what he believes in. You know, like values and ethics are very important. So that helps for me big time. That helps because I mean, he went through a lot. I mean, he put it all on the line for his values. You know, he put it on the line for himself, for his family, and all the staff members. It's an interesting read for sure.
Now, what I'm going to do.
T.D. Jakes also has a good book too.
T.D. Jakes, which one of what's a T.D. Jakes book that you're into? You might recommend. He has so many good ones. Is there a specific one? Did I lose you, Khaazra? I think I might have offended Khaazra.
Oh
no, I'm calling him back.
Oh, absolutely.
What happens is sometimes on the show I ask people a question that they're not prepared for.
Yeah, and they're like, "Well, I'm done,"
and then they hang up, and then that's just a way to teach me to not do that kind of thing. So we'll see if we can get to T.D. Jakes.
What happened?
Okay, so T.D. Jakes. Do you have a favorite T.D. Jakes book or favorite T.D. Jakes books?
Well, SOAR is just one of them. There's another book he wrote. I think it's called Instincts.
Yep.
And that was a really, really good book. A really good book.
And what I'm going to do is James is here. He's an attorney from New York, and he had to move from his home to New York to Oklahoma. He had to move here because in New York right now, it's completely shut down. There's a lot of negativity going on there. I want to get his take on staying positive, and I also want to get Josh's take on this. James, what question would you have for Khaazra, the founder of $1 billion credit card processing business, about staying positive? Because this guy, he just told you where he came from. Right. So what questions would you have? I mean, if somebody is an expert about staying positive, I think Khaazra is that guy.
For sure, and T.D. Jakes is a nice segue to that because I listen to him pretty regularly. I'm back in now 2018 on his Potter's House podcast, and one of the ones I think from 2017, and it was talking about positive thinking or even just thinking for that matter. And what you said earlier, Khaazra, about your upbringing and being around that type of element, it's very interesting. T.D. Jakes said, you have two people. One of them says, I drink and I'm alcoholic because my father used to drink and was an alcoholic. And then you have a different person with the same dad that says, I don't drink and I'm not an alcoholic because my father was an alcoholic. So it's pretty interesting. You've got the same father and the same habits, and two people do or do not do what the father did because the father did it. So it's I thought it was a pretty interesting perspective. But as far as answering Clay's question and asking you a question about the power of positive thinking, how do you hold your staff and the people that report to you accountable in a positive way?
So there's so many different moving parts in payment processing, and I'm literally going through that as we speak. It definitely comes from the top down. That's the first thing that I've learned. It comes from the top down. No matter how ethical a person is, if they come into an environment where, those at the top, whether it be the leader or leaders being in management, if that doesn't come from the top down, I just don't see how a person at the bottom will fall in line, because people normally do, they say, hey, it's my job, and they'll do whatever their job is. So I think you have to have strong procedures in place, like strong systems in place to implement that. I'll just be honest. I've seen it even in my space, where I've seen certain things happen, and I call customer service and say, hey, man, like, what's going on here? They say, oh, well, this is what management said do. It's not something I would agree with, though, but management would agree with it. So it has to come from the top down, and it has to be like written in stone as part of your procedures and your operating agreement.
Now, James, what I want to do, if we can, I want to have Josh take your mic for a minute, and I want to get the guys here who are selling all the apparel back on the show, because I know Anthony would have some great questions for Khaazra on today's show. And Khaazra, by the way, there's a guy that I talked to this week who says he knows you. He works at Valuetainment. He says he knows you.
Oh, Jaron probably, right?
Jaron. How do you know Jaron?
Oh, man, small world, man. Small world. I had dinner with him in Dallas after I left your office.
Really?
Yeah.
The thing I found is that I hang around positive people, so do you, because the Bible's not screwing around when it talks about that a companion of fools shall suffer harm. It talks about walk with the wise, and that's a Proverbs thing. Josh, is it shocking to you, because you're starting to join the network?
Sure.
You're starting to meet a lot of the people that I know, and it seems like a lot of the successful people, we all know each other. Is it shocking to you that I'm running into people now that know Khaazra, even though Khaazra's from Florida, I'm from Tulsa? Is that shocking to you?
None whatsoever. I think it's a very small circle. It's very awkward. We had a situation a couple weeks ago or last week, and it's very interesting how small the circle is. And when you take a bunch of like-minded people, they seem to gravitate towards one another and feed off of one another to go directly into what our message is about positivity. We associate with one another. We communicate. We hang out. We talk because we agree, because we feed each other positivity, because we feed each other ways to improve and ways to grow and ways to do things better, as opposed to a bunch of whining and complaining and destructive, negative behavior.
I will say this. This is crazy. I'm going through Corinthians, and it says, but ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? Now, I don't think you can ever take out parts of Bible verses, but I just want to focus on one part. It says, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness?
Yes, sir.
I would say also, for what fellowship has negative with positive? Khaazra, have you had to, over the years, separate yourself from when you decided to leave the ghetto? Is there certain people you just had to block on your phone or tell them, hey, man, I'm not hearing that? Did you have to actually do that?
My grandparents did it for me, luckily. Sometimes you need a coach to actually do that for you. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I would not have taken myself out of that environment because, I thought it was normal for me. It was really normal for me. So when they kicked me out of that environment and sent me to be with my uncle, I didn't realize that I was in a negative environment until I was in another environment.
Right.
I'm like, oh, wow. I realized that where I came from wasn't normal, but that was my normal because, the music and everything, it all kind of aligned with, well, maybe it wasn't just the music, maybe it was just where my mind was, but it all aligned where I was mentally at the time. So once I got outside of that environment, then I would never, ever want to go back. And I could never see myself being in that type of a environment again and being a product of that environment, if that makes sense.
There's got to be somebody listening right now that is trying to get out of the funk, trying to get out of that rhythm of just survival. Somebody that's just trying to get out. And the thing is, every time they get close to getting out of it, they go back to the same people. They've got a people problem. They're loyal to the people that are the problem. And Khaazra, I want to see if you can help somebody out there. And I'm going to read this verse again from the Bible because I was listening to this morning, and I kept hitting repeat. I just kept going back. It says, "But ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, or what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them, and walk in them, and I will be their God, and I shall be my people." I start thinking about this. I almost can't be around people that don't understand capitalism and love it. People that want free stuff. But, I mean, seriously, if you try to share what you're doing with people that want free stuff, Khaazra, how does that go over if you're trying to motivate someone that's not wanting to hear it? How does that go?
I don't think they really want it, right? I don't think they would really appreciate it because I'll tell you, Clay, I've spent at least a couple $100,000 in the last maybe year and a half, 2 years on, putting myself in those environments and consistently investing in myself so that I don't, what do they call it when you have a relapse or whatever? So I don't have a relapse, but just to really improve myself and also to be of much more value, not just for me, not just for my family, but for those around me as well. So, and then that's one of the reasons why I went out to your office in Tulsa, to get more of that good stuff so that I can, be I guess you could say a brighter light or a better vessel.
Now, Khaazra, as we wrap up this portion of the show here, I've got two guys who've joined me inside the box that rocks. I pulled up your picture so that they can see you. I know you can't see them, but this guy could be a male model next to me here. So, Anthony, why don't you introduce yourself to Khaazra and tell him what you're doing here today at this election watch party we're doing.
Okay, so basically today we're just spreading the good word about our president, keeping the spirits high. It's with the pandemic going on, it's a lot going on. It's a lot of tension going on, and just trying to bring smiles to everybody's face into the community. And
you served in the military for 4 years, right?
Yes, I have.
You're 22?
I'm 22.
And you have dreams someday of growing your own business?
I do.
You do? Okay, so this guy you're talking to right now, he has built a $1 billion credit card processing company. He started from the bottom, now he's here. So you can ask him any question you want to ask him. You can ask him any question you want there.
Definitely. I just want to... Man, I just don't know where to start. It's a great opportunity. What did you do to get your business, to start off the ground?
Took action immediately. I didn't make it too complicated. I knew I knew that I wanted more. I didn't exactly know. I didn't even have a product or a service. I just really had a desire to have, more control of my time and to do something that was much more meaningful. And that's really where I started. And I took action. I know I love helping people. I love talking to people and communicating with people. And I didn't even get into it for that. I didn't realize that that's what I really enjoyed doing until I got into it. I remember reading, just really quick, a book. I don't know which one it was. I think it was Soar, or maybe it was Instinct. No, Soar by T.D. Jakes. And I remember him, he does everything now. He writes movies, he produces movies.
Yep.
And he said he had never, ever thought about that prior. I forget how he got into it exactly. I think he went to a showing somewhere. He did something, and then it didn't work out too well, and it led him into doing what he's doing now. But he took action, and that was, if you want to do something, I would say you must take action. You never know where it will lead you.
Okay.
Action focused.
Right,
and he loves Jim Rohn. He loves Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, the author there. Anthony, can you introduce Khaazra to your friend here, your partner in crime?
This is my good friend, Adrian.
Adrian
Robinson.
Hey.
All right, Adrian.
Hey, Adrian.
You're talking to Khaazra here. He's had a lot of success. Obviously, you're doing big things here, too. Adrian, what question would you have here for Khaazra as we wrap up this portion of the show here?
What keeps you grounded? Like, how do you know what you believe in and what you're doing is real, and that that the effect that you have on the world is true, versus it being all in your mind? And when I say that to sum that question up, is how do you differentiate, certain people that you would call bad from certain people that you would call good, or certain people that you would call friends, from family, and enemies, and all of these different things. Because being successful like that, I'm pretty sure that you've seen your fair share of people that didn't mean you were always the best intent. And so that's what my question, where it stems from, is how do you differentiate whether those people are friends or whether they're there to actually benefit you or use you or what?
Good question. Well, one thing is this: I'm very, just because of, you make a certain amount of money, or you have a certain kind of business, does not mean you still don't go through it, right? So I still go through it on a daily basis, and so one easy way to find out if people really mean you good or not is you just look at the results of what they do. It does not matter what the intent is. I remember I was talking to Clay last week, and Clay said, he mentioned the book 48 Laws to Power, right? Mm-hmm. And I opened up the book just last night. I had been reading it off and on.
Oh, you want to take a shower after you read? You want to take a shower after you read that book? But continue.
Oh man, it's crazy. In there, he says that it does not matter what the intent is. What matters is the result, right? So it doesn't matter. They say, "Oh, well, I meant this, I meant that." No, what is the result of what you did, right? And so that's one way. And one way that keeps me grounded is, and like I said, I'm very, very, very much just like you, man. Being around, so that question of values or ethics or integrity, it has been on my heart heavy over the last, I'm kind of like in a space where I wasn't really sure what was going on. It's been on my heart heavy for like the last 90 days or so, right? Mm-hmm. Or more. And, I was quiet and I was still enough to some kind of way get connected to Clay in Tulsa. When I went there, Clay said some things that made me think, like, man, like, okay, here it's coming up again. Values, ethics, values, ethics. Mm-hmm. Then he recommended a book, the book Give It All Away with Hobby Lobby. That's talking about values and ethics. Then he recommended another book by a guy who's a billionaire called Winners Never Cheat, right? And his whole stance is values and ethics. So when you're around enough people, you're in a group where that is like the norm, that'll help keep you grounded. Because it's just so much around us. It's almost impossible for you to just walk around thinking positive all day long without having positive reinforcement around you all day long, or as much as you possibly can.
Now, Khaazra, we're on Facebook Live right now, so we've got thousands of people watching right now on Facebook Live, too. I'm also going to edit this show out as a podcast. But for anybody out there tuning in right now, check out, if you're processing credit cards and you're thinking, am I paying too much? I would encourage you to go to Khaazra's website, KHAAZRA.com, KHAAZRA.com. I am by no way endorsing saying switch. I'm by no way saying I don't endorse them. I'm just saying check it out, compare rates, see if you're getting a fair deal. Take a second look. Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. And you guys are selling. We got Trump hats. What do we have here? We got Trump hats. We got Trump shirts. What else?
Trump shirts.
What did you guys bring in here? This is some awesome stuff here. Okay, look at this. We got Khaazra. I'm holding this up to the camera here.
I can see it.
These guys are they have Trump shirts here.
Trump 45. It ain't a mistake.
Really?
Snowflake.
Hey, the Trump shirt says Trump 45. It ain't a mistake. Snowflake. Oh, these guys are entrepreneurs. You got a what do you have here? This is Anthony.
Bobblehead.
You got a Trump bobblehead right here. Okay, we got a
bumper sticker.
Bumper stickers. These guys are hustling, man. You got the Trump mugs.
Oh wow. Okay.
If you come up here to the Riverwalk,
the link afterwards.
Yeah, this is good stuff here. Well, Khaazra, and I appreciate you for being on the show and for speaking the truth in this booth and in the air everywhere. And we'll talk to you on the other side, my friend. Okay.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Take care, Clay.
See you, dude.
Thank you.
All right. Jason, you met that guy at the conference. You engaged with him in conversation.
I did. He is a very likable guy.
Would you have had any idea that he grew up in an adopted home, surrounded by poverty, drug dealers, drug addicts, prostitution. Would you have had any idea?
No, I would have absolutely no idea. He does not have that stereotypical, damaged look to him. He is very refined. He is one of the most intelligent people I've had the pleasure of meeting at some of the conferences. No offense to anybody else, but Khaazra's just on it. So you look at him and you're like, man, this guy's been successful his whole life. It must have been easy.
And now what I would like to do, Jason, is talk about you. How did you grow up? What was your background like?
Oh, man. So I am the middle of three brothers.
Three brothers?
Of three sons. Yeah. So there are three of us, my younger brother, my older brother, but raised by a single mom.
Your mom was a single mom?
My dad was around for the first couple of years when my older brother was born. And then right around the time that my younger brother was born, he's only 2 years younger than me, so I didn't have much memory of him, but he just kind of like bounced, said, hey, your best friend's looking real good. I'm going to go see what that's about. And that's how I got my half-brother. But no, my mom...
He dated your mom's best friend?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that happened.
He's
a great guy.
Do you see him today?
No. So the last time I saw him was he was in town with same lady actually, and he wanted to reconnect with the sons, take us out to dinner. And at that point in my life, I had realized I didn't really need that type of father figure. I had already gotten where I wanted to go. I had started getting into the more like corporate side of things. I went from cooking to like accounting and everything. So I just took my lessons and said, I don't really want to meet him. But my brother's like, well, we're going. We'd like you to go with us. So talked to him, and it was a very short conversation. But
what was that conversation like?
He was very standoffish to me because what's funny is my older brother, who's 4 years older than me, still looks up to him like we're like little. Like he's like, hey, that's our dad. And then my younger brother hadn't quite known him enough, so he was like interested in the prospect. But like, I, being the middle child, had a lot of conversations with my mom. I was kind of like her conduit. And so I was aware of who he was as a person and why I didn't really need him in my life. And so he could tell, like, I'm sitting across from him, not like shooting daggers out of my eyes, but hey, man, I know you right now. You think this is different, but there's a lot of years in between what happened and now to make up for. So let's just tread lightly. But he got me talking. Well, I guess his now wife, we were having a conversation about something, and he was just like, man, you turned out to be a really cool dude. And it took everything in me to not say, well, I don't really care what you think. I'm not doing this for you.
So does he talk to you now?
No. After that, I think he wanted to go to like lunch the next day. And I basically told him, hey, this was cool. I did this for my brothers though. So moving forward, I don't really need you.
So what would you say? There's somebody listening right now who didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
Grew up without a father figure. And they have chosen to take that negative thing, the absence of the father, and it's become sort of their fuel, motivation, and justification for not doing anything with their life. And there's somebody else that looks at it like yourself and uses it maybe as a motivation to go to the next level.
Exactly.
So what advice would you have for somebody out there? What would be your feedback?
What I would say is I understand how easy it is to use it as a fuel or excuse to be angry and to not want to aspire to be anything. So one of my lowest moments was I was in high school. Still, to this day, I will say I'm the funniest person you'll ever meet. I still had a really good sense of humor, but I was the most pessimistic person you would ever meet. I was very angry. Didn't have a lot of hope, not a lot of positivity outside of my, dark humor. But when I realized that all of that was I had pent up issues regarding the lack of having a role model. All of my friends at that point had really awesome father figures, and something at my core noticed that, but I didn't realize how it was affecting me. And so when I realized that I don't have to aspire to the image of somebody who wasn't there, I can take the lessons that I've learned leading up to that point, use awesome role models like, a mom who's going to say, yeah, it's going to suck, but I'm going to raise these three boys the best I can. Father figures like my friends' dads who were really good examples.
So you had a few friends' dads that helped you.
Yeah, and then also even going into my adult life, I met you when I just turned 24.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer. I've never had a boss that's pushed me the way that you have, but then also to have somebody who I could look at as a mentor, like not to make it sound weird, but like you and John, I would say are like surrogate father figures to me because you give discipline when it's needed, but you also teach me very valuable things. And like, you'll even go out of your way. Like last week in the office, I can't remember what we were doing, but you stopped me to just give me a bit of information that I didn't know. I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's like something like a father would do. So what I would say to those people, just in summation, is you have two choices. You can either be pissed your whole life, or you can take that and say, I'm not going to allow myself, there we go, to be in the shadow of something that doesn't matter. Like, you are better than that. So aspire to be not that person that you don't have in your life. If they left, good. You didn't need them in your life in the first place. Or if you're craving their attention, stop and cut them out. It's hard, but at the end of the day, you're going to be a lot better off for it.
You know, I appreciate you saying that. You know, Proverbs 13:20 reads, "He that walketh with the wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed." All I would say is my dad was like a super awesome, morally sound person. He died of Lou Gehrig's disease a few years back, and it wasn't positive to see that happen. But he always morally was solid. Mm-hmm. He just didn't know how to grow a business. And so I learned a lot of stuff about character from my dad. You know, my dad's like, you know, if somebody would call my dad and they had some emergency and they were a solid person in his life, my dad would just drop everything to help these people.
Awesome.
And that was awesome. My dad was very consistent. You know, my dad would say, "I'd be home at this time." He was. My dad never, wanted handouts, that kind of thing. However, he didn't know how to build a big business. He didn't know how to scale a business. He didn't know about systems to build a business. And it's not because he was an idiot. It's just they don't teach that in formal education.
Right.
So I had to seek out virtual mentors, mentors where I probably could never meet them, because they're so successful. They're so they're doing big things. I didn't have access to them, but through the power of books, I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and that was like my first book that really introduced me into the success mindset. Napoleon Hill, the book Think and Grow Rich, distills the processes that Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford and Thomas Edison used to build big successful companies, to go from poverty to success. And then I started reading, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and then Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And you start, so if you're listening right now and you're going, man, I don't know, I don't have a mentor, I don't have anybody around me that's positive. That's why we do this show.
Right.
So I'm trying to help you right now. I don't want to give you too much knowledge where your head explodes, but I'm going to give you the top 5 book recommendations. And I'm also going to say, get out to a conference. And so many of you, I think of Jeff right now, Jeff with Concord Home Builders. This guy's a great client. He had a goal. I remember him coming to a conference stating, I talked to him yesterday. It was kind of a, whenever men are near the point of tears, we have to talk about something funny or meat, or we go to Atwood's, or something has to happen. But he was like, dude, I remember 2 years ago, I was doing construction, and I told you I wanted to build $1 million company. And Jeff with Concord Homes is going to do it this year.
That's awesome.
And so that never gets old. But what I want to do is I want to give you 5 book recommendations, and then I want you to book your tickets to an in-person Thrive Time Show workshop. And I think most people know this, but if you don't, I'm not trying to get rich off it, okay? So the tickets, you go to the thrivetimeshow.com. You can look at the tickets there. If you're in a tough spot, for as little as $37, we have a scholarship where you can come out to it. And I'm telling you, you get to a conference, you take notes, we'll help you down the path. A young lady last week came to a conference. Luckily, she lived kind of locally, and she was like, I really want to move forward from ABC 1, 2, 3, but I need a job that can pay over such and such.
Right.
And the gentleman sitting next to me saw it happen, but we connected her to an employer who could pay her financial goals, which would allow her to pursue her career.
That's so cool.
And it's just asking.
Get to a freaking conference.
You got to get to the conference. So here are the 5 books you want to recommend. You want to read, okay? Think and Grow Rich. You got to get that book. Think and Grow Rich. And don't do this crap where you're saying, "Oh, I got the audio version." Really, try taking notes with an audio version. Just get the actual book, print it. I don't like to read books. I don't care what you want to do. Mentorship moment number 1. It doesn't matter. Successful people have big libraries. Poor people have big TVs without big libraries. Okay, get serious. So Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Buy that book. Second book. You got to do it. And quit saying, "Oh, I can't get it." Silence. Get the book. Shh, 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 shh. Silence the jackassery and the excuses. Get the book. Zip it. Just get the book. Get the book. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that's by Dale Carnegie. Now that book teaches you how to communicate. And I don't care whether you like President Trump or you don't. And I don't care, well, actually I do. You need to like President Trump. But I don't care whether you like President Obama or not. Well, actually I do. President Obama's a communist. But the point is, they're both great speakers. They're great. And Jason, why do people who have the ability to speak confidently, verbally, why do these people tend to have massive success?
Well, it inspires people. If you look at somebody who is a great comedian, one, they can get their point across. They can actually make you understand what they're trying to say. But there's a certain level of confidence and articulation that just hypnotizes people. It's being a good presenter makes people feel comfortable. It allows them to be able to absorb whatever knowledge that you are trying to, impart onto them, but it also helps them understand it because you can communicate clearly.
Let's do this for a second. A lot of people aren't aware of history, and I think it would be important for maybe people just to hear this. This is an audio clip from Martin Luther King's last speech, his last big speech. I've been to the mountaintop. He delivered this on April 3rd, 1968 at the Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's listen to this. Listen.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions.
Sounds a lot like mask mandates. Sounds a lot like lockdowns. Listen to what he's saying. History repeats itself.
Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there.
Sounds very familiar to what's happening right now. Mask mandates, schools shutterings, lockdowns, okay? It would be easier for us to deal with it if we hadn't said on paper that we have the First Amendment right to peaceably assemble.
But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly.
Think about that. You can't go to church right now for many of you because your rights are being violated, but because he was passionate, he was committed, and a brilliant orator. Now, do you think that Martin Luther King Jr. woke up one day and said, "Oh man, I'm a great communicator"? No. Listen, there are just as many naturally born gifted speakers as there are naturally born neuroscientists. The same number, 0. You've got to learn these skills. Listen to this.
Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around.
That's the kind of leadership we need. That's what we need. When you finish talking, do people clap? That's the question.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop.
Do people trust you when you talk? When you speak, do you convey what you meant? Or do you sound unsure of yourself? This is a learned skill. All right, Dale Carnegie has a course you can take on public speaking, or you can become a client and I can teach you, or you can come to a conference and you can learn, but you've got to focus on those communication skills.
I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain.
Come on.
And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
His dream was that people would be judged based upon the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And now we go to 2020, and check this out. The Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, he got up there and delivered an unbelievable speech at the Republican National Convention. I'm just going to play a little clip of it. Let me just play a little clip of it. He stepped into the podium.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Cameron. I'm 34 years old and the first African-American Attorney General in Kentucky history.
He's 34 years old.
It is an honor to be with you as a proud Republican and supporter of Donald J. Trump. I was raised in Kentucky, just a few miles from Abraham Lincoln's birthplace. Our first Republican president believed in compassion, self-reliance, freedom, equality, and justice. Sadly, there are some who don't believe in this wisdom or in the better angels of our shared American history as they tear down the statues of people like Ulysses S. Grant, Frederick Douglass, and even Mr. Lincoln himself. Lincoln said, "Any nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure." And for Republicans, our heroes are those who propelled an imperfect nation ever forward, always striving to make life better for everyone. Even as anarchists mindlessly tear up American cities while attacking...
He's 34 years old. Folks, I'm telling you, this is what Martin Luther King was dreaming about, what he was talking about. He wanted people to be able to be judged based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. But this guy, if he stepped to the stage and didn't come across as credible,
right,
and wasn't a good orator, what would happen?
He would lose. Everything that he would say would have no merit. The crowd would not be interested.
So we got to read the first book, Think and Grow Rich. The second book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because once you know what to do, if you can't communicate it effectively, it's not going to work.
Right.
Now, the third, you got to have 7 habits of highly effective people. 7 habits. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you knew what the habits were of the most successful people? Wouldn't that be nice?
It'd be pretty nice.
Wouldn't that be? I mean, Jason, what if you did exactly what successful people did? Do you think your probabilities of being successful would increase if you knew the 7 habits of highly effective people?
Even if I didn't read that book, just going along with the idea, it's like that's the old habits of, or it's like the personal habits of saying, God, it must be nice to be Clay. And then if I just do the things Clay does, I'm like, oh, now I virtually am Clay. This is great.
So let's talk about the 7, okay? Just real quick, the 7. And by the way, buy the book. Get the book. It says 1, be proactive.
Yep.
Successful people are all proactive. That means they're not waiting to be told, oh, hey, you should start saving to buy. And Jason, you know why I keep harassing you about buying a house. You know why I do that.
Well, yeah, it's just because it's a goal, and you want me to see that goal through, and the sooner the better.
And because you can buy money.
That's true.
It's like a $200,000 house. If you buy that house for $170,000, you just bought $30,000.
It's so crazy to think about it like that.
You can buy money. You're buying money at a discount. I mean, it's a move.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of reasons, but I encourage everybody out there. Buy a house. Be proactive, though. You're to buy that house, you got to fix that credit score. How are you going to fix the credit score? You got to go to SteveCurrington.com. SteveCurrington.com, one of my clients. I don't make a commission on this. Just go to SteveCurrington.com and see if you qualify to buy a house. If not, he'll lay out a plan for how you can fix your credit. 2, begin with the end in mind. What's the end? I'll tell you my end. At my funeral, I don't want to be the guy that accumulated a lot of money. That's not my goal. I want to be the guy who used that money to help causes, I wanted to be the guy who used money as a vehicle. And
Right.
we'll see if that happens.
See, we have similar end goals. I want to be the guy who uses money as a vehicle to enrich other people's lives. Like, that's one of the things why I think I've waited on a house for so long. I know I need to just do it, so I have a base of operations, but it's like the house is for me, and I don't really want anything for me anymore. I just want to do things for people. But the only difference in the end game is I know for a fact I'm going out in between the ages of 60 or 65 in a base jumping accident.
Whoa.
It's going to be glorious.
And I'm saying this to you, everybody out there, if you buy a home, you can buy money at a discount. That's what you're doing. You find a $200,000 house. You buy it for $160,000. You just bought $40,000 of equity. And that allows you to use that money for other things. Now, point 3, put first things first.
What?
You get your to-do list, you print it off every day, you put on there, this is what has to be done today.
You're saying to have priorities?
You found the T.D. Jakes quote to be interesting. I did too, where T.D. Jakes says, every day we are given as a gift from God, but what we do with that day is a gift to God.
Right.
Put first things first. What do you have to do today? Today I've got to call a wonderful client, a guy here, William, with his company King Screens. Going to talk to him about some strategy. Got to call Nick Lamb, the world's best surfer. Got to write questions for Thane Marcus Wrangler.
What's the name?
I've got to reach out to Rick Manning. Rick Manning, Washington, D.C.'s very own Rick Manning. Rick Manning, who great guy, knows a ton about politics. Want to get him on the phone here to book an interview with him. I got to get a hold of Sean Foyt, the praise and worship leader who's opening these praise and worship services all across the country in states that are shut down. But you put first things first. 4, think win-win. Don't do a deal where you win and the other person loses. Make it a win-win. Point 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Do you understand the words that are coming out of the other person's mouth? Do you understand the context of the email before you respond with an all caps 3-page email? 6, synergize. Synergize means find people that are going to a similar place in life and team up with them. So Aaron Antis, he's the marketing director for Oklahoma's largest home building business, shawhomes.com. He says, hey, I want to host a rally for Peaceably Gather. I want to raise some money for peaceablygather.com because I want to support Pastor Brian Gibson. And I said, sure, I'll use my building for free. I'll help you work on the outlines for it. Share the truth. He hands me a book called The Believer's Authority by Mr. Kenneth Hagin. Unbelievable book, by the way. It totally wrecked my Sunday. I spent my entire Sunday in my hot tub reading that book. It's phenomenal. But synergize. It's an endless series of win-wins. Surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up and quit the relationships with people that are taking you down to the bottom. And then point 7, sharpen the saw. That means every week, go back, every single week, block out time to learn. The more you learn, the more you earn. The more you learn, the more you earn. You should always be learning more. So Think and Grow Rich, get that book. 2, How to Win Friends and Influence People, get that book. Read that book. Devour that book. Jason, you've seen the books on my shelf. What do they look like?
Oh man, they all of the ones that you've gone through have green stickers to prove that you have just beaten that conquest. But then every single one is dog-eared. It's got tabs. If you were to crack them open, there's like the scribblings of a madman. There's tons of highlighting. You just take notes because you don't just read the book. You actually absorb the knowledge.
I'm having a conversation with the book. I'm learning from the book. I'm asking questions in the book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, get that book. Get that book. Why would I have my 15-year-old daughter read Robert Kiyosaki? I'll tell you why. Because it'll change her life. My daughter and I are talking, and it's like, Dad, why would anybody go to college? I don't know. But because you read that book, you asked that question. That's power.
You got the added benefit now, too. If somebody's like, do I really need to read it, Mick? Well, I mean, you don't have to, but a 15-year-old's still going to be smarter than you. So
unbelievable. And the final book, self-serving as it may be, I recommend you get my book, Start Here. And I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Well, first off, you can download the book for free. Just go to thrivetimeshow.com/free-resources. You can download it for free. thrivetimeshow.com/free-resources. But you can download the book for free, but I encourage you to buy the book so you have a copy of it. But in that book, I try to take everything that I know as it relates to growing a business and put it in a linear path. And it's done very well on Amazon. It's an Amazon best-selling book. It's called Start Here. It's written by myself, Clay Clark. Pick up the book today. It features my good friend Jonathan Kelly, and get that book. And now, without any further ado, before we end with a boom, I'm asking you, are you going to be the next Khaazra? Are you going to be the guy who took your environment and the situations you grew up with that could have made you bitter? But are you going to take those same events that could have made you bitter and turn those into reasons and motivation to become better? Are you going to become bitter or better? Have that conversation today with yourself. Am I going to become bitter or better? Because this guy, Khaazra, he is an inspiration for somebody out there. And his success will inspire somebody else. And it's unbelievable when you start that momentum going. You can change the cycle of your family. You can be the first person in your family who's successful. You can do it. I know you can do it. I know so many people who have done it. And I just encourage you that now is the time. You can do it. And I want to leave you with one final Bible verse because this is so powerful. Genesis 12, chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. And just so you guys know, when the Bible was written, somebody didn't write it and say, oh, okay, those are 18 words. Now we'll pause and put a 1 next to it. There's 18 more words. Now that's verse 2. These are divinely inspired writings from heaven. As a Christian, I believe that. And then they went back over time and they put little numbers next to things so we could all be on the same page, literally. And that phrase, I hope we're all on the same page, comes from that idea.
Does it really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We're all on the same page. You open up to your Bible to Genesis 12:1.
I'll be honest. Any time I went to church as a kid, they're like, oh, just open up to, was it Ephesians? Is that
You're
one
like,
of the
where
chapters?
is that? Oh,
yeah. It's like, is this alphabetical? I don't know.
Right. You know, I had a couple ideas for the. I would love it if we could keep the King James version, but then just number every chapter.
Yeah. So
you could say, open up to chapter 1, Genesis.
Yeah. Or like
go, oh, okay. That way, for new believers or new followers, they could at least follow along. Because I think it takes people about 39 years to figure out how the Bible's organized.
I'm still flipping through it as you can hear the pages just as the pastor's trying to read the verse.
Yeah. I also have another thought. I think they should have, when they print the Bibles, there should be the Old Testament and the New Testament as separate books.
Yeah.
That way the font can be bigger. Because once you finally start to understand the Bible at about age 39 or 40, you can't read it.
Right.
So this just did. If you're out there today and you're a publisher of Bibles, those are my 2 pro tips for you. But what we're going to do now, is we're going to end this thing with a boom. We're going to end this thing with a boom, but I want to read this, Genesis 12:1 chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. It says, "The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will make those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on the earth will be blessed through you." But it starts with, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Somebody here needs to leave the home you grew up in and move to a new location, a new part of the city, a new town, because you become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. And if you're listening to this show every day, but you're surrounded by idiots, move. And I encourage you to move states if you need to. We have people moving to Oklahoma right now to get out of the jackassery of California, of New York, of other states. If you are in a state that's stupid, I encourage you to get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there, folks. And now without any further ado, let's end this thing with a boom, because boom stands for big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum, and that is what you need. You need big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum to change the conversation, to change the destination, to change your compensation. That's what you need, is big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. And here we go, without any further ado. 3, 2, 1, boom! And yes, I did say Juan.
Why does this still keep happening to me? I don't know whose prayer I'm breaking into, but I'm breaking into somebody's prayer saying, Lord, why do I keep going through the same things over and over again? And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before, because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom!
Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom. Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom. Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom. We taking over, it's our time now. Boom. Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-place. Hey, back, let me get 'em. Go get 'em then. Hurdle every obstacle, trying to do the impossible. Turned my whole life around, haters thought it was comical. Had to make some moves, didn't even seem logical. Quarterback to play, man, I had to call it audible. Drop back, stop that, rearrange and switch it up. Only got one life to live, it's best that you go live it up. Failure ain't an option, ain't no way that I can give it up. Hey, knowledge, gon' pick it up. Nothing like your posse, look poppy, you cannot top me. They watch me and try to copy like Rocky, you cannot stop me. Hungrier than ever, we grinding all through the weather. We shining because we better, get with us, we bout our cheddar. Once I change my mind, dog, trust me, ain't no going back. Coming for that top spot, I'm feeling like they owe me that. Time for us to level up, I feel like we've been holding back. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, Dad. Boom. Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom. Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom. Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom. We taking over, it's our time now. Boom. Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-place. Hey, back, let me get 'em. Yeah. Came a long way from where I used to be. Don't even see life the way I used to see it. Old habits die hard, but you gotta leave them. If they ain't riding like a Harley, then you don't need them. You're cheering and you're clapping, I don't need that. Fake friends treat them like Fat Joe, make them lean back. Excitement, no vision, makes you blind, I can see that. Anything I think up in my mind, I can achieve that. I can make a million if I want to. I'ma keep it real cause I want to. Other women try to holler, girl, I want you. And disrespecting wifey's what I won't do. Gon' do your dance, gon' do your dance. If you really wanna change, gotta have a plan. Even when they sit down, I'ma take a stand. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, man.
Beliefs become your thoughts, thoughts become your actions. So be intentional about where your passion is focused. There's no hocus pocus. We only live once, man, and you know this. You can't press the rewind, but you can make a beeline to the next level like you're headed for the tree line. I was born in Minnesota, moved to Oklahoma, incorporated both into my rhymes. Now it's time to show you how a former stuttering student can turn out the raps with a lyrical miracle flow in the cash to match. Yeah, I'm imported, a Minnesota refugee, but I'm consistent as can be as I rap on hip-hop beats, bringing rappers and tax. Even though that I'm wise, I can play that funky music, but I ain't vanilla ice. Here we go, here we go, here we go, full steam. 3, 2, 1, dynamite on the scene.
Boom. Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom. Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom. Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom. We taking over, it's our time now. Boom. Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Boom.
And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Hear the rest of T.D. Jakes' incredible, life-changing, and mind-altering sermon, Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind Today, by looking up T.D. Jakes on YouTube and typing in Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind.
You're getting ready to flow. I feel the glory.
That is a lyrical miracle rap